Aaron Hernandez. Which is why Danyel is actually here today to help us talk about Aaron Hernandez.
We need a professional that's qualified to dig into this. Cause
I mean, I saw the Netflix documentary. I'm understanding there's a second documentary out right now. Where is that one available?
ID Network.
ID Network. And we're actually going to let you tell us which one you feel is better if you were to suggest to a person who can only see one to see which one, but we'll get to that. So, as I try to set this up, watching the Netflix documentary, which is the one that I was able to view, I left that documentary giving Aaron Hernandez a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. Obviously, my first inclinations prior to watching the documentary is how ridiculously idiotic this individual was in terms of his decision making. And again, I often say things here on the air that a lot of people don't agree with, but I felt after watching that documentary that I had a little bit more understanding of his perspective, and not that I can ever excuse the murder of 3 individuals, and he was not convicted of 2 individuals, right? But I'm smart enough to make an intelligent deduction from a intake of data. And that data tells me that he did murder 2 additional people, which probably led him to the murder of the 3rd person. But the documentary was very telling because we all assume when we see people in life that make these type of horrific bad decisions that oftentimes it comes from their upbringing. But watching the Aaron Hernandez Netflix documentary, there were so many things in his past that I felt were reasons or precursors to where he ended up. So I'm going to leave it right there on my end and just pass it around the table as to your thoughts about the documentary, about the entire scenario, and how are you looking at Aaron Hernandez at this point? Joe.
I saw the Netflix documentary, at least probably like 80% of it. I'm not going to talk too long about it because I really want to hear what Danny has to say about it. But for me personally, it's interesting. I always like watching things that kind of give you a historical timeline and you get to see things that we couldn't see at home. Normally you're looking at the news, you see it on CNN, Aaron Hernandez did this. Now they're searching his house. Now he got arrested, and then you kind of go straight to the trial and that's it. But you don't see all this in between, the phone calls, the treachery.
Oh my goodness, the phone calls.
And then you also get a understanding of all the way back to like school. Like, you understand his upbringing, the fact that he might have been, his friend said he was homosexual. All those things, the dynamic with his mother, getting with or marrying or either living with the
moved him in. She moved him in.
Moved in with the cousin's husband.
Yes.
After his father died,
Right.
which is dramatic. So you start to see all these little things happening, and you can kind of maybe get an understanding of how a person might go down that road. He ultimately, in my opinion, made the decision, so he deserves whatever he was going to get. But now I can understand, like, okay, now I see. And what I see is just, he was just a reckless dude, just all over the tracks. Like it was just, it is what it is. There was no reasoning behind it. He just did stuff just impulsively. So,
well, I felt there was reasoning only because when you're fighting to hide the fact that you're gay, that's just something where in life, if you're living every day in the closet like that, there's just so many issues that you're bringing on to yourself. So that's just one part of it.
Yeah, but I did the killing people thing. That didn't really connect with the being gay part. You know what I mean? Like, it's one thing if you didn't want anybody to know,
Right,
but
right, right.
it's, I mean, but it all plays a role. So now he's got all these little things
It all
happening for
plays
him.
a role.
Like one of the guys that was on there, the offensive lineman for
Patriots.
the Patriots, he said something that I hadn't even thought of before. He said that he wanted to be fat and sloppy and out of shape and stuff because he didn't want people to question why he didn't have a woman, knowing how he looked. So he's like, if I look fat and sloppy, then that gives me a pass. Like, oh, he's just got low self-esteem or something. So you learn all these little things about.
Right, but see, okay, so as a non-gay person, as someone who cannot walk in those shoes and understand what they understand and what they feel, he described it perfectly.
Yeah.
Because he is trying to uglify himself.
So nobody would question him.
So that no one would question him.
Yeah, I get it.
And that is part of Aaron Hernandez's DNA as trying to be tough guy. So however they portray it outward, there's something inside that causes that to happen.
Yeah.
And when you're trying to stay in the closet, you don't know what can happen. That's why I'm all for gay people coming out and being happy. Because staying in the closet causes problems.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's 2020.
Right.
But with that being said, there's all these little things that we saw in the documentary that pretty much just this is adding to, it's like getting jabbed in a fight. After a while, the jabs add up and you go down.
Right.
You know, it doesn't take a haymaker. It can be a whole bunch of little things.
Right.
And so that's what I kind of took away from it. And but even still, like even in the midst of that, he still had some sort of humanity when it came to his daughter and the girl that he was with. So it was like you look at the thing and you're kind of torn. Like, do I feel sorry for him or
I
not?
felt like
and then,
he was two people.
Yeah, he was.
He was two people.
Yeah, so she'll probably understand that better than we.
Let's go to Danny Mendez first before we get to Danielle.
I haven't watched it, so I definitely will pass the mic on, but I definitely want to, especially hearing what you guys say. I see the McCourty brothers have a problem with the way it was done, so I definitely want to watch both to get different perspectives of it. Because, they have a problem. You mentioned the offensive lineman. They have a problem with them even interviewing him. They say he didn't know him.
Yeah, exactly. So he really didn't fit. But I guess he was supposed to have been.
He didn't know Aaron Hernandez?
Well, he knew him on what these guys are saying.
Yeah, but
the McCourty brothers were not playing with Aaron Hernandez.
Maybe he was trying to. They were trying to give you a feel of somebody that was homosexual in football.
Oh, the McCourty brothers gay? See, that's a whole other problem.
No, but I'm talking about the offensive lineman.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe they're trying to give you perspective into what a football player is thinking if you are and you're trying to hide it.
But if you're not a gay football player, you don't know.
Yeah. That's true.
You don't know and you cannot understand what those guys go through. Like, I mean, we talked about this in the studio last week. If there's 10 men, one of them are gay.
Perhaps. And if you are, whatever.
No. Not perhaps.
It might be 2. It might be 3.
If there's 10, yes. If there's 10 dudes,
you know,
one of them is gay. And he's living his life in the closet. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, we could talk about the Saints thing with the Catholic Church and all of this, but that's a whole nother thing. But, you know, gay men who are not allowed to be gay men go on and do things that to protect themselves that aren't the benefit to society as a whole. Danielle, if I'm wrong, please tell me. I don't mind being disagreed.
She was writing notes. They don't tell him what I said. She said he could be coming for everybody.
He hears it. He hears when he's wrong all the time.
Just turn the mic off.
I'm wrong at least 4 times a day.
So first of all, I have a title for this episode. It's called Gladiators, Heroes, and Villains. Okay, because we got Kobe on one side, right? He's like this gladiator that is like the hero, and then you have Aaron Hernandez on the other side who has everything. Like, these are two people who, if they were going in the same direction, they chose the opposites to go into, right? But as far as Aaron Hernandez and him being gay, I'm not sold on that. What I'm sold on is an individual who had a traumatic upbringing, who was sexually abused, right? Because we have that whole component that comes in that. And once you have someone who has been sexually abused and those pleasure senses have been turned on in the brain, then you have someone who is always questioning his sexuality, and it doesn't necessarily mean that he's gay. You know, and I wish he would have gotten help, because he you have the trauma, the domestic violence that happens during his early stages of life when his father, I think one point they said that his father bashed his mother's head on the kitchen sink.
Yeah, until
And-
he knocked her out.
Yeah, and so he was 7 years old when that happened. And so what you also know about the brain is that we have our frontal lobe, which separates us from animals because we can reason, logic, think. But you also have this individual who has had this trauma very early on in his life. And if that incident happened at 7, can you imagine what was happening at 2, 3, 4, 5 years old when a child is supposed to learn trust and mistrust because the parents are the caregiver, and is this parent answering, when I need help? Or is mom making the decision to get out of this place because the house is on fire? Metaphorically in this particular situation. So what you have is a particular part of his brain, which would have been the amygdala. And that's why you have somebody who is so impulsive, right? And seems as if a Jekyll and Hyde because he's always in a state of heightened agitation.
Yeah.
He never had anyone to model for him, wait, how do you think this through? Like with Kobe Bryant, you have parents who nurture him to say, like, no, we're going to you can gear shift your brain and you can say, let's go to your frontal lobe and we can reason this out. But you never had that with him. And then when you get to the funeral part and you're talking about he shows no emotion.
Yeah.
That to me was like, oh my God.
That's when he shut it down.
That's the trigger right there. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, Joe, I think we were talking about it a little. You said he was a psychopath, and I was like, man, was he a psychopath? And it's like the narrative of the Netflix helps you to develop some type of endearing feelings for him because again, when they show you this father figure, right? But there's so many psychopaths who also were fathers, right? You have like people like the Iceman, and you talk about their relationships with their daughters,
Wow.
and it's like, but you also have somebody, and it's so layered and complex with him. You also have somebody who's very empty inside, and we all run into people who are empty inside when we meet them. They don't turn out to be killers, right? But they can't necessarily feel fulfilled. And that's why people can't even find the logic in how this guy signs a $45 million contract and he's not fulfilled. Nothing could fill this guy up.
That's right.
What else is there? It's you have that even that conversation where they capture when he's talking to his mom and he says, he was like, yeah, I didn't tell you because I can't trust you. Yeah, that's what their relationship. She was very unpredictable. One of my professors once gave a beautiful definition of what trust is, and that's the ability to predict what somebody's going to do in a given situation, whether you like it or not. And his mother, he had no clue what she was going to do. So,
because he lost the trust in her when the father died and she moved that guy in.
That's
and he
right.
told her, and that was the root. And that's why he became so close with that other lady
he had a clue.
Go ahead.
He had a clue.
He had a clue?
And I'm going to say, I look at it like this. When I was growing up, when I finally found out what my father was doing, I had the choice to say, I'm going to follow in his footsteps or I'm not. I have a son now, 9 years old. I'm doing the total opposite of what my father did towards me and my brother. To me, even though Aaron went through what he went through, he had a choice, just like he chose with his mother. I'm not going to basically talk to you about a lot of things because I know what you're going to do. So I'm not going to put myself in that predicament of being let down because you already showed me what you're going to do. Now, I looked at the Netflix thing, and at first I was with them, but once
the first killings happened, and he took that truck to his cousin's house.
Yeah.
And
Cousin's
left
house.
it in there for a year.
Mm-hmm.
He got away with it. So he felt like he couldn't be touched because he knew that the cousin wasn't going to go against him. And she even went to jail for him.
With cancer.
On cancer.
Right.
On chemo.
Right.
She was a ride or die.
She died. She died.
Yeah.
So now he was smart enough.
Sorry, too soon. My bad.
He was smart enough to go through college. He was smart enough to sign a contract with New England. Now, my second red flag was the dude that he was with when he shot the two guys.
Uh-huh.
He tried to kill homeboy too,
Yes.
but homeboy didn't die.
Is that why he had the eye messed up?
Yes. And it created a whole nother
Yes.
level of paranoia.
So now he
He
wants.
did a Dick Cheney.
He wants to be traded from New England because he's scared because that guy didn't die. Because I had to rewind it because I'm like, who is this guy? But when I rewinded, he was with him when he shot the other two. He intended to kill him. Now he knows this guy's in the streets. Basically, he don't know. And if you think about it, that's why he said he got that security system at his house.
Mm-hmm.
Because now this guy he's still living. He didn't go to the cops. He didn't tell them who shot him.
Wow.
Wouldn't tell.
He wouldn't tell.
He wouldn't tell.
That's
'cause
the code. That's the code
He's
of the
street.
streets.
He's street. He's going to handle it
I'm
himself.
gonna get you somewhere else.
And he was scared.
And he was scared.
And that's why he was ready to go. I do remember that one of the guys, the guy that he had the relationship with back home, he said, I was hoping that he would go away. He said, because if he stays close to here, then he's going to keep hanging around those same influences.
Mm-hmm. Right.
He said if he goes to Seattle, Texas, like just somewhere where nobody can jump in a car and ride for a
Right.
couple of hours to get to the game, he thought that was going to be the thing
Right.
that could help him get out of it.
And on the football end of that, Belichick and the Patriots, who've had this fabulous run and all of these great decisions,
Right.
that was such a bad decision
Was it?
because you had to know of these issues.
But was it bad in
Yes,
terms of
it
winning?
it was a
Not for
bad
them.
decision because you cannot bring somebody home.
You talk
like
about
that.
the organization-
You can't bring that guy home.
That's stealing signs and recording people on the other sideline, and they're cheating on a regular basis. Why would they care if a guy came home, murdered people,
Well,
and he just goes to jail? They just
cared-
keep it moving.
They just cared about themselves.
They don't care. They keeping it rocking.
They cared about themselves.
Yeah, and he happened to be good enough that they couldn't cut him.
No,
because they
again-
will cut you.
Again,
in
one of
New
the
England.
things that I took away is the switch that Aaron Hernandez used between work and not at work.
Yo,
Because every person in that Patriots building is like, nah, this dude's a model dude. He's early, he leaves late, he does all the work, he's in the film room, he's studying everything, he knows everything.
He love football.
Same thing at University of Florida. This guy's a model guy on the practice field, on the game field. It's when he gets away from that.
That could also have been his escape.
Yes.
Football was his escape. So
Yes.
why do you want to leave? Same things, you're having problems at home. You don't want to go home. Like, you stay at work. You don't mind working a little later. Like, that was his escape from the real world, which was this crazy life he had. When it was football, yes, he loved football, but
Right.
it was part of it was his escape.
Right.
So
But again, the thing about his crazy life that needs to be stressed is it was all his decisions.
See, but that's the part where we come back to where is it his decisions or because he had brain injuries? You know,
that's
he
a
had
whole-
he
yeah.
has CTE. So CTE is going to damage your frontal lobe. It's like you're talking about the early stages of dementia. So what somebody first of all, he's been playing football his entire life, right? Then you have
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
Not only did he play, but the position that he played is one of contact, constant, hard
Hitting.
contact.
Yep.
So
So you have that. Then you have neurological pathways, right? Because your experiences are like highways on your brain. So him going back to these like negative places that he hung out with and these traumatic things that he did, he was just recreating the things that was going on in his household because it felt normal to him. So it's like, is it reasoning for him or is it just what he's used to? And I think there was a time that was a pivotal moment when he came to the Patriots where if they had nurtured him and maybe teamed him up with somebody who would have kept him away from that, like said like this is some type of buddy system, or if he had really clicked with somebody, that was the chance for somebody to really teach him something new.
In other words, if the Patriots actually tried to do anything other than get him on the field for Sunday.
Yep.
But he was young.
But did they know that though? Did they know his background like that?
I think they knew. But I do think that he was super young, and on the documentary it said he didn't really connect with anybody. One of the guys said that he said, "Yo, we should hang out sometime." He said he never hit him up on it. But before that, when he was in Florida, he was with what's his name, the coach,
the Pounceys.
The Pounceys, but he was also Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer.
Story of him out with Tebow at night.
Urban Meyer's wife invited him to the house. They had Bible study together, played with the kids.
They all thought he was a model individual.
So he never ever connected with anybody, even though these people were there.
Right.
Like, I mean, you got Tom Brady.
Again, this is where I go back to the homosexual part of it. He's so used to a facade that he can put up that facade at all points. Now, this is such an interesting conversation to me.
I don't think it's a facade just for his sexuality. It could also be for the person he was.
Yes.
Maybe he knew he had this rage in him, and so he was covering that up too. He didn't want to let anybody in.
Right. So this is why this is such an interesting documentary and why it's such an interesting conversation, because as we've gone around, there is so many different perspectives to look at this. Whether you think homosexuality is an issue that caused him to behave a certain way, CTE is an issue that caused him to behave a certain way, his upbringing, the relationship with his parents caused him to behave a certain way. This is actually a melting pot of all of those things and how they affected an individual.
That it could be separated. You can't say that it's just one particular thing because it's all of those things that comprise the person.
Yep.